today's topic is cognitive disabilities and how we can deal with them by Herb and by Holger. Yeah. I'm Holger. I'm with Sapient since 2007, and Herb will also have the code-sharing part later. Yeah. He is also already quite long with Sapient since 2002. What will you learn today? Yeah, we quickly want to show you what inspired us for doing this. Yeah, we give you a bit of cognitive disability data. Yeah, we will go through variations of cognitive disabilities, some existing tools, our idea, and for sure, yeah, how you will and can support us in the future. Yeah. So wait, what are cognitive disabilities? You know, like all the time when I'm asked, like, is our page accessible? Yeah, we think of Braille, keyboard, blind users, yeah, and all that. Yeah, but no one thinks of the huge group of people, yeah, that are affected by an inaccessible web because they have cognitive disabilities. And just a couple of numbers on the right-hand side. Yeah, in India, for example, there are 18 million blind people. In Germany, we have around about 350,000. Yeah, but when you compare it with the people with disabilities, yeah, there are official numbers say 89 million in India. That's about 7% of the people, and 11 million in Germany. Yeah, and when you compare it with cognitive disabilities, yeah, there are 15% of them. Yeah, about that is 1.5 million people. Yeah, are cognitive disabilities in Germany. And when you look on India, there are no real numbers, but you can imagine that that might be about 15 million when it's similar numbers like in Germany. Yeah. So let's do a bit of a deep dive into disability and versus skills. So cognitive disabilities are typically things like dementia or Alzheimer, intellectual aphasia, yeah. Speech and language is often a problem. Autism, you possibly know that. Attention deficits, dyslexia is also counting into that, and dyscalculia. Yeah. We want to make sure that we don't focus too much on the disability because that's not quite inclusive. Yeah, so we want to look more on cognitive skills. Yeah, and that's a lack of attention, memory processing speed, time management, letters and language is not really good consumed by the people. Numbers, symbols, and math is often a problem for them. They can't do choices, yeah, or they don't understand even choices. Yeah. And this is also quite interesting because this is also often coming with elderly people, yeah, or when we are getting older, yeah. Elderly and these elder people are also often quite wealthy, yeah. But we develop all cognitive challenges, and that starts, yes, visually with glasses that you wear, but also often that you develop issues with your body, yeah. And there are numbers from the developed countries like US, yeah, that shows that people that are 75 and older and that are possibly quite cognitive disabled often, yeah, are the most wealthy people. Yeah, so we often don't offer them the possibility to, from home, yeah, use our web applications. Yeah, and while people are just creating code and web page content, yeah, they often use tools and they think that they are doing good with that, yeah, but they often don't help. This is just an example of a blog post that I and Michael from Germany did a couple of months back. Yeah? And that shows a 100% rating, yeah, of a blog post. Yeah? But when I put that into tools for cognitive disabilities or just checking if they are right, yeah, 100% might not be inclusive. Yeah? And so it does not really help. Yeah? So automated tools, yeah, often don't consider plain language guidelines. Yeah. And this is important because we need to take care of short, simple words, short sentences, no use of acronyms and abbreviations, yeah, but also use active voice in present tense. Yeah, correct grammar and spelling is something where the normal tools are helping, but it's also important. Yeah, and remove proper nouns. Yeah, people often don't understand them. Yeah, so let's apply linguistics. Yeah. And yeah, the readability evaluation in the cloud by Herb.
Yes. So while tools that are commonly used, like Grammarly, they enable us to write more sophisticated code, which not code, sophisticated text, right? Which actually often tends into the opposite direction of making the text readable and easier to understand. So however, linguists have been examining this and trying to understand how to make text measurable for a number of decades, and some of these formulas that they have developed over the time have been implemented out there by some students, by some NGOs, but it's always like a web form that you can copy paste your text in, you get a response back, an answer back, but that's not very integrated. So what are these formulas looking at? So there's like three kind of main groups I would like to point out. The first one is a simple syllable count, right? Where you do syllables, how many syllables are there in average in the words, how many syllables are there in the sentences, and so on, to calculate a complexity kind of score of the text. One very popular formula is the Flash-Kincaid formula, which has been used by the US military since the 70s, and they have understood already back then that it is super crucial for a reader that may be under a lot of pressure, in a combat situation where cognitive abilities that the user might have are strongly influenced by the situation, right? And then they know they apply this measure to make sure that the user manuals of the machinery and the armor that they're providing to their users is of course super simple and understandable, right? Another way of looking at this is doing a simple character count. While this is simpler to calculate, as you can imagine, we don't have to identify the syllables, but simply do the counting of the characters, how long are the words, how long are the sentences, how many characters are used all over the place. It is actually looking as if these character count based formulas are slightly more accurate than the syllable count one. So this comes with a positive effect, not only on the implementation side, but also on the result side, right? And then you can see some of these have already been created long before personal computers have been available in offices. These have been applied to electric typewriters already in the late 60s, when electric typewriters were like, you could type like a single line, hit enter, and that was already measured with some scores in some of these early and adopting and yet expensive machinery, right? And the third group I would also like to point out is looking at other approaches to this. So one, for example, is the Vienna formula, which is very specific for the German language, and it does apply to us, of course. But what it does, it kind of mixes, it looks at both syllable counting and character counting and gets an even better, more accurate score from that. Another approach would be the Dale Chal approach, who's not looking at sizes of words, lengths of sentences, but actually uses a predefined dictionary and of like 3,000 common words that are common around across society, right? And looks at, are we using other vocabulary? This is not common, which is not hard to understand for the reader, right? Because we're using stuff like abbreviations, which not everybody might be aware of, right? And however, this comes with a little downside because, depending on the level of education, the societal status, and so on, and age, of course, the common dictionary is a little bit in flux. So my kids have a different set of common words than I have compared to my parents, even though we have a similar level of education, or at least a similar path of education. But still, the society is changing over time, right? And of course, as Holger already said, acronyms, longest words, long sentences is a simple thing that we can also point out. And so what we've done, we've implemented 3 of those formulas already in our application that I'm trying to show here now. It's like we've implemented the Flash-Kincaid, we've implemented the Vienna formula, and we've implemented our own text structure analysis. How are we doing this? So basically, we are providing a generic user interface which is web technology based, right? that can then be wrapped into add-ins and extensions, for example, for any applications that allow extension, right? It could be Office applications. Office add-ins are nowadays all markup based. We can extend any CMS out there that allows that has a way of extending with our own modulars, right? And our as a wrapper, right? And so the integration of that can directly grab and access the text that is being written. We don't have to copy paste anything to anywhere anymore. So our tool takes the copy that the user has been written or has selected for analysis and passes it on to a cloud function that we are providing and that we are currently running on CloudBurner. And this initial front end kind of facing API takes that copy and passes it on to a number of analytic services, right? The ones they've implemented, we've also implemented in the same CloudBurner account as functions, right? But they could be anything. They could be REST services from third parties. They could be internal. They could be external. They could be running on any infrastructure that we please. Because once they come back, we've defined like an API and a data structure, right? A data model. The feedback from these functions is then aggregated and passed back to the front end in a common way, and we can extend this to 6, 7, 10, or how many ever analysis functions and services that we want to look at. And all that is running, of course, serverless, as we're applying cloud functions, right? Now over to Holger, who is actually ready to show a little demo.
Okay, thank you, Herb. That was quite insightful. And now let's come to an app demo, and I will just, or we are just able to show you what we have created, and that's already running on as a cloud function out there. Yeah, and you could when you just type the application, you can just access that. Yeah, I need to be a bit quick because I don't have a lot of time, but I just took the text from our own XT Summit webpage. Yeah. And I'm just validating it, and you just see it's quite quick because it's already running. Yeah, and you see that all the text that we have validated here is like 20 years of recommended years of education from when we look on it from Flash Kincaid. Yeah, you can go there and you can just say, okay, I make the text a bit more easy. Yeah, and I maybe reduce the longest words that we have. Yeah, I'm just doing that now, just like quickly here, yeah, in this way that you just get a feeling, yeah, and then you just can see how the score is increasing and the recommended years of education is going down, yeah. But you also see all our acronyms that we are using and long words that we are using and that long sentences, yeah. That is really making this not a good example, yeah, of an accessible web that we have created, yeah. And as we have been speaking about the German version, yeah, I also have a German version from it, yeah, so that you also get the Vienna formula quickly shown, yeah. And that's a similar thing. Yeah, it also returns us 20 years of education. Yeah, because even when I just directly translate that with Google Translate, yeah, the result is also not quite nice. Yeah, coming back to the presentation. Yeah, and just going through what we want to enhance. Yeah, what you have seen here is a web application that is currently just consuming the things, using the services, and just giving you a feedback. Yeah. But what we could do in the future, do something like that MS editor for Chrome or Edge. Yeah. But also like we have seen it in Teams, yeah, and same interface, yeah, that you can do an accessibility check on your existing application. Yeah. That also means using 365, Microsoft, or also creating plugins for the CMS of our clients, for example. Yeah. But it could also be contextual help with AI and bots. You know, you could, for example, someone is quite long on a page and keeps the mouse or the pointer on one place, and you can just pop up something like, do you need help? Yeah. And then people maybe could just highlight a text area and we could just reduce that and make that easier to understand. In that case, yeah, everything that we have shown you here, yeah, is available in PS Cloud, in our Lion Cloud. Yeah. We have an own group there, the enablers, and there's the Easy Writer if you want to help. Currently, it's just built in 11T. It's a static site generator, quite small, 80 kilobytes of application, yeah, using the cloud services. Yeah. but we also have a Teams channel if you want to join therein.
Yeah, and two things I would like to add personally is like, as you can see, the enablers. This was a small team that came out of the enablers hackathon 2 years back, and we're still we were like quite passionate and successful with that. We didn't win it, but we got quite far, and the passion is still boiling, and we're still on it. We didn't want to let this die after the hackathon. And also a second thing is like. There is also a business need for this, because especially in Europe, the EU Commission is very active and serious about inclusive communication. And if you are publishing your web content and your organization is officially funded with EU funds, there is a regulation that you must provide your content also in easy and simple to understand language. So it's not a must that you only do this, but as an option for users who have cognitive disabilities due to the many reasons, which could also be due to language barriers, like people that are migrating and are moving countries and learning languages and stuff like that. So there is a business need for this as well.
Thank you all.